All right, we're gonna replace the battery on here. I don't even know how old this battery is, but we're gonna check it and see. What it's doing is even after charging, well, now it actually started, but it's doing that shotgun thing where you hit it and it kind of tack, 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 which is usually the battery. And I did test this battery before charging it. And if I hit, when it did the shotgun thing, like tack, 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 it would, battery voltage would drop down from, it wasn't great. It was like 12.4 and it would drop down to about 8 volts, which is pretty much dead cell. So got a battery we're going to put in here. And I don't know if you noticed how slow it cranked over there. That's pretty slow for me. But we're going to slap the battery in here. And let me whip it out of here and we'll see. This battery could be, some people might still run this because it does start the bike, but it cranks over slow like that, and it does show a cell going dead, which usually means it's got a plate that's shook loose inside one of the solder joints where the plates are soldered together. Older batteries where you could pull the tops off of them instead of these sealed batteries, you could test the specific gravity on each cell. So you've got 6 cells in here, and you know, you'd measure specific gravity and it would be I think 1.280 to 1.320 is what it's supposed to be for each cell. So what you want to look for in a battery case, if you see any kind of distortion at all, like the battery's been overheated, you know, just give it a good good look around. And this is a Napa Legends battery. Absorbed glass mat. 310 cold cranking amps. And what I like to do, I don't see a date code on this thing anywhere. Like usually, like a stock battery will have a little sticker on it that's got a date code where you can pop the month and the year out, so you know exactly how old it is. And this one doesn't have it, and it hadn't been marked. I like to mark the battery when I put it back in there. I just take or put the new battery in, especially if it doesn't have a date code on it. Even with the date code's usually down on the side there, a little sticker, usually where you can't see it. I like to take a marker or a scribe and just scribe the month and the year that you put the battery in there right on top of it where you can see it. So you look at it, you know, oh yeah, because you're going to forget after, you know, 2, 3, 4, 5 years how old the battery is. I do anyway. And just a little marker on top there, like yellow or white mark, or just take a scribe and scribe the date and the month and the year on there so you know. And since we're replacing this, it's a good idea to, I've already cleaned these, to take so you're going to want to clean these terminals off before you put it back together. Just a little wire brush, just scrub them off, or a piece of sandpaper or something. Just give them a little scrubby scrub there, and the top of the battery too. Make sure you're getting good contact. Now, okay, so we've cleaned these up pretty good here with the wire brush, both sides. Get a nice surface to make good contact with. So what will happen with usually it's the negative that's loose, but sometimes you do get a positive that's loose cable. And what happens on the positive is it's arcing like crazy because it's going down the road, and this is an exaggeration. Just figure it's doing this, and every time it hits and then lifts, it arcs. So you get a melted melted positive terminal. And that's just from loose battery cables. And it can, with a loose positive, you can screw up a lot of electronics with that. So check your battery cables right on a regular basis. Let me go grab my battery here. So I'm just going to write on the top of this battery the month and year. Got my date stamped on there, or written on there in white paint. Since my yellow marker didn't work, so just had to use some paint on there. 725. And terminals are clean. We're going to go ahead and pop this the rest of the way in here. Now, as far as batteries lasting, there ain't no telling how long it's going to last. You know, I've heard people say they get 6, 7, 8 years, whatever. And from experience, that's the exception rather than the rule. They're all slightly different. 2 to 3 years is about average, and people do get more than that, but you know, a lot of it depends on what type of bike it's in, how much it gets used. If it's something that's ridden on a regular basis, they tend to last longer. If it's something that you know, gets ridden once in a while, and never for more than probably an hour, because it takes a good hour to recharge a battery of riding time, meaning continuous riding, not I went down to the store and 10 minutes away and stopped and then started the bike up and rode it another 10 minutes and then shut it off and then rode it for 20 minutes and shut it off. So you've never actually really charged that battery very much riding it. So when it says ride it, it means ride it. You know, ride it for an hour with no stopping. You know, or charge it up real good before you go take it out. Okay, and we're in there. We're going to give it just a little bit extra cinch on this negative here, because I did use a screwdriver to tighten it down with. So you just want to make sure, and then we'll now don't over tighten it. You know, tight is tight. I'm sure there's a torque spec on these things somewhere, but I've never actually paid attention to it. So tight is tight. And for the last step, we're going to spray these terminals with battery sealer. It's just a protectant. Keep corrosion off of the terminals there. Anything to help, right? Now we're going to hook our meter up here and see what we got as far as charging system, because I haven't checked it this year. Haven't really ridden it this year, but you know, it is what it is. And this is going to give us an overall view of how the charging system is working, if it's actually charging where it should be. And I'll show you that in a minute, as soon as I get these hooked up. Hopefully I got enough gas in this thing. We're at 12.7 volts. Or actually just under 12.7. We're like 12.67, so that's close enough. So let me adjust this thing here. All right, so now we just need to verify our charging system on here. What we're looking for is, we see we're at 12.6 volts right now. So we're going to fire it up, and it should go up to anywhere from 14.2 to 14.7 is what we're shooting for. If it's over 14.7, you might want to look at regulator grounds. Depends on how far off it is. You know, if you start it up and it goes to 15.2 volts, that's too much. So regulator grounds, because the way the regulator works is it's going to shunt excess electricity to ground. And if it doesn't have a good ground, it's going to overheat the regulator and eventually fry it. take out the Zener diode in there, which controls the leg for the regulator portion of it. So, see, we're at 12.6. I hope I got enough gas in here. See, we're at 12.3 now. So you saw it went up to 14.0, 14.1, started kicking back between 14.1 and 14.0. That's the regulator portion cutting on and off. So you just verified that the charging is within spec there, and the voltage cutoff is right on. That's the 0.1 to 0, 14.0 to 14.1 is where the kickoff is, which is right on. You know, if it's over that, you're, for instance, let's say you put it on there and it goes straight up to 16 volts. Well, that's entirely, anything over 14.7 you want to question. But if you hook it up and it shoots right up to 15, 16 volts, something's wrong there. Usually a ground, regulator ground, because it, like I said, it shunts the excess through ground. And you need a good regulator ground. And what happens on some of these bikes is people get the frames powder coated and they don't chase the threads out of the powder coating. They just kind of run it in there. It never makes a really good ground with the regulator. So what I like to do, and I think I've done it on this one already, is run an extra ground off of the regulator body to a good chassis ground using good clean surface with a star washer, so you got a good bite on the frame there between whatever ring terminal you're using, and you want to use a good size wire, probably 14, 16 gauge for the ground on that. Just ring terminal on the regulator to good chassis ground. And on some bikes, you'll see that they put regulators, especially custom bikes, they'll put regulators in the most weirdest places that have no airflow, and they do get, regulators get hot. And you want it, that's why most of them have fins on them. You want them to have a good cool surface to go to. Now what you can do in some cases, you can get a thermal compound that put it on the back of the regulator with a thermal compound. Typically, I do that if I'm moving the regulator to mounting it to a heat sink, like a big piece of aluminum, you know, a 1/4 inch or a 5/16 sheet of aluminum for a heat sink, and then coat the back of the regulator with thermal compound, not dielectric grease, which is an insulator. You want something that conducts heat away from the body, because they do get hot. So I'm not going to show it on this one because this body's obviously good, but well, maybe I'll show it to you. If you look here, we're at 12.7 now. So say you wanted to load test this battery, and this one's a brand new battery, so it probably ain't going to drop too much, but if you look, we're at 12.4. And watch what it goes to now when you hit the starter switch. went down to 11 something. I'll have to look on the film because I didn't see it close enough. But what you're looking at, if you hit it like before, I did it yesterday before I replaced the battery, and it went down to 8 volts. And then charged the battery and checked it again, and it went down to like 9 volts. So it's obviously not holding up to a multimeter load test. I mean, you're not really load test. You're using the starter as the load testing mechanism, and you're just measuring the voltage across it. But it's a good indicator if your battery's fried. If it drops down below, we'll just say 10 volts. If it drops below 10, you better be questioning whether that battery's still good or not. And, you can take it out and take it to whoever's got a load tester, AutoZone, or whatever auto parts store you frequent, and they'll test it for you. I don't have to have it tested, but if you're not sure what you got, have it load tested. I'm just load testing it like this because that's the way I load test them. I have for years and years and years. It's quicker than using an actual load tester. You might find on some bikes that you have a really high compression engine where the starter doesn't really want to turn it over, that you're putting a hell of a load on the battery. So you upgrade the battery to whatever big bore, Odyssey, whatever it is. And you should also think about going up size on the battery cables too, so they could pass more current through the cables. Cables are cheap. I don't know about you guys. I go down to Napa and they make me cables. I can tell them whatever size I want, whatever terminals I want on there, and they'll make them for me, usually right then on the spot. So just if you need battery cables, you can hit typically, I don't know about everywhere, but I use the Napa store, and they do a great job at it. Anyway, that's it for this. You guys have a great week, and thanks for subscribing. Thanks for liking all that stuff, and appreciate y'all. Really do. Guys, take care. Have a great week now.